Good evening. I am Namerta from Northern Pride, and welcome to tonight's Black History Month event. I'm joined here tonight by Patrick Ziza. He's a dancer, and we're going to be having a look at his performance later on tonight, but also having some conversations, some Q&A about his work, about his inspirations. And so I'd like to welcome Patrick.
Hi.
Hey, Patrick. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Fine.
Great.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you very much. Lovely to be here with you tonight. So just to get straight into it, really, you're a dancer. Can you tell us a little bit about what brought you to dance and you know how that came to be in your life?
Yeah. Hi everyone. My name is Patrick Ziza, aka Ziza. You can refer to me as he, him, his, or they, them, theirs. I was born in Rwanda, which is a very small country in East Central Africa, and I moved to Britain in 2003 when I was 17. And lived with my parents, did the usual teenage things, going to college and doing things that are just pointless, really. And then I decided to do dance because for me, dance has always been a way of life, a way of expression, and it's something that I've done since I can remember. Growing up in Africa, I was in a traditional dance group for the kids, and we would just perform in every celebration that you can imagine, weddings, New Year's Eve, Christmas days, Easter days, and things like that. And so I've always danced. We've always, around the house, we've always listened to the music, traditional music, a lot of Eastern African music as well. And we've always danced as a group. We always used to throw parties as well, dance parties. And so I've always been around dance. But I did have a couple of years when I was growing up in my teenage years where I then kind of just put it on the side. But then I went back to it just because it's pretty much what I've always done.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow, brilliant! Yeah, so it's something that came from your heritage growing up in Rwanda.
Yeah.
So from your early life, how much of that early life do you put into, or how much of that early life inspires your work now?
Mm-hmm. Well, so I am very much inspired by African heritage. The idea of being together, the idea of sharing, the idea of expressing life through dance and through being together. So that has always been something that I've always been exposed to, and that's something that I actually also put in my work. So it's all those factors put together. And I think for me, I consider myself as one of two different foundations. So I have my African heritage, and then I have the Western culture, which I live in as well. So I have those two things intersecting with each other. So I have to say I can always mix and match, depending on what's speaking to me. So I've always put my African traditions into other work that I produce. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Just sort of thinking along those lines a little bit, I can kind of relate a little bit because I'm from an Asian background, and although I'm British born, I remember being taken to Indian dance classes as a way of kind of getting to know my culture, sort of thing. And I'm just wondering how much of that sort of aspect of your art, the fact that it's a marriage of your African and your Western experiences in your life, helps you to maybe reconcile or bring together those two different parts of you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a good question. So when I started creating my own dance work, my own dance theater work, I was one thing that really pushed me was to actually look at the things that happened during the colonization in Africa. And I was looking around the countries that, that borders with my country of origin. So I decided to go with Congo because I grew up listening to Congolese music, artists like Papa Wemba, Kofi Olomide. So we grew up listening to these artists. So so we were pretty much exposed to that. So they have a way of expressing themselves through dance, through the way they speak, and also through the way they dress. And I have been to a lot of African History Month events in Newcastle and across the region. And most of the things that I've seen, not that I'm against it, but most of the things I've seen, it was a lot to do with the negative side of what happened in Africa and the slavery and the oppression, which of course we need to talk about these things. But I wanted to come from a different angle. I wanted to come from a place of, there is a huge aspect of African people that loves life. So I wanted to actually bring in something that, one, is inspired by African people, and second, it's something that I can actually relate to the environment that I live in. So that's where the idea of dandyism came up. So in Congo, you have African dandies, for example, who the history of African dandies is basically based on their slave masters who would pay them by giving them their clothes, and then they would take their clothes and they would really experiment with those clothes and add a little bit of color and just make those clothes speak about themselves. So that I took something that came from the oppressor, but actually we took it and we completely changed it around to create a strong, different identity. So I wanted to bring those connections, to the oppression, as well as to where the Black people are and what they value. And for me, I picked up on African dandies because of how they dress. And once they dress, they completely change and they become just these amazing performers. So I was inspired by them. And so I wanted to do something that just celebrates life, because that's pretty much what we do as people of color. We love life. We always gather around with our families and enjoy life, have food and sing and dance. So I wanted to do something that's centered around that.
Fantastic. Yeah, bringing a real sense of the positivity, of the joy of life, out of your culture. Yeah. We've got some images up on the screen now of Patrick and some other dancers that you work with as part of your dance group that dressed up in as dandies. Yeah. So here are some examples of being a dandy and the idea of that dress. I think it's absolutely lovely. It's such a dapper way of dressing. But I definitely, in terms of that history of colonialism and thinking about slave masters as well and slavery and flipping that narrative and taking that on board as part of your own culture, sort of re-owning it.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So I also understand that you're a teacher as well. So teaching dance is an aspect of the work that you do. Can you tell me a little bit about why you got into teaching?
Yeah. So when I finished my degree back in 2011, I kind of went away and I did a little bit of performances here and there. And this time I was in France for a couple of months, and I was just doing a little bit of touring in west of France. And then when I came back, I decided to do a PGCE, which is like a teaching qualification. So I did that at Sunderland University, which is where I went for my degree. And basically I started teaching from there on after I finished my PGCE. So I was teaching on some of their modules and mainly teaching on artists such as Alvin Ailey, who did, the first Black African American to actually, create a dance company. So I was teaching about a little bit of history of Black dancers, Black contemporary dancers that made a contribution to dance today. So, and then I was also teaching community classes at Dance City, in schools. To this day, I still teach. So that's why I began teaching after basically doing a little bit of touring after my degree.
Fantastic. Yes, I come from a teaching background as well, and I can see the joy in your face when you talk about it, and I really feel that it's such a vocation that gets under your skin, and it's lovely. What are the main messages you try to give your students when you teach them?
So for me, the work that I do, first of all, is inspired by Black culture, by Black people. So to me, I already feel that I am making a change, because I'm bringing something that some of these young kids and even some adults actually have never been somehow connected with it on a deeper level. Because I think it's one thing actually reading about it and, you know, maybe just studying about it in schools for, you know, for a few days. But with me, it was more, it's more intimate, and therefore I think they get more out of it. And it's always nice when they ask you questions that really make you feel like they're being curious, and they genuinely want to know how maybe the other side live and what they did and how they coped and things like that. And sometimes can create that awareness. I think so. I would say maybe awareness is the biggest lesson I think that my participants get from my lessons, and also by just me being me, and, you know, being a representative of other Black cultures and Black teachers as well, because I think I can only give my my heritage, which is something that I'm very passionate about. So I put it in a way that I am teaching something that is authentic, that is not just, oh, you know, I've learned this contemporary dance technique in college, and it's someone did, you know, it's so I wanted to bring something that is different, something that is not that people are not used to. So that's why for me, teaching is something, it's almost like a conveyor belt actually, to create different meaning and give people a different understanding.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like that meaning and that understanding is something that your students will take on board, not just as part of their dance, not just as part of that vocation that you're giving them, but in every little aspect of their life. It's lovely to hear that. So we're going to watch your video from your YEGOKO piece. Am I pronouncing that correctly? YEGOKO. Before we do, can you tell us a little bit about what this piece is about, or what inspired you to make this piece?
So YEGOKO is actually taken from Kinyarwanda language, which is my mother tongue. And basically what it means is simply what's going on or what's happening. So I created YEGOKO after the George Floyd event, that really kind of triggered the Black Lives Movement. I mean, Black Lives Movements have been around for years, but that triggered the current Black Lives Movement that we know now. And I think what happened for me that really shocked me was the response of people, of different people on social media, and pretty much actually that's the first time that I started seeing people not listening to what people of color are telling them, as in this has been going on for a long time, it's going on today, we experience these things. So it's almost all these things came up, and yet a lot of people were questioning us, a lot of people were not listening to us. And so I was triggered by that, and then I decided to create YEGOKO, because for me, I was just, what's going on, what's happening. So YEGOKO is really it's inspired by the recent events of injustices and the systematic oppression, you know, police brutality in America. So those things triggered me. And also on top of that is the reaction I I experienced on social media, but just people not listening to Black voices and actually, you know, creating stories that this is American problem, but actually no, this affects everyone who live in a Western, you know, who's different, who's Black and living in a Western Western societies. We have these microaggression, racism remarks that are really targeted to us. So when we talked about these things, because I think we were brave, I have to say, for us to be able to now actually say something about this. So then I created the YEGOKO because it was just the idea of what's going on in my head, what's happening, and also with the dancers who are in the piece. I asked them to just think and just really process their thoughts, and I wanted them to tell me how they felt in that moment when we were creating YEGOKO. So it's pretty much a short piece that really kind of brings in a little bit of text, a little bit of movement, but also just a lot of it is more of questions, just questioning and not really interested in creating a solution or an intervention. It was just us questioning what's going on. And also on top of that, the main message I wanted from YEGOKO is, despite everything that's going on, I actually wanted to focus on that message, which is we celebrate life. For Black people, life is always a celebration, and to me, that's something that always I keep in my work, is life is worth to be celebrated. And so despite all of these hardships, that's what I want the YEGOKO to provide to the audience.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for that. I think we're now going to actually watch YEGOKO and have a look at this piece.
The womb! The womb. It's warm. It's pleasant. It's cozy. It's comfortable. I don't want to get out. All I hear is these voices from far, far, far away. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. You're doing great. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now push! I don't want to come out. I don't. I hear it again. Rimwe, kabiri, gatatu, kane, gatanu, gatandatu, karindwi, umunani, icyenda, come on, icumi, push! And there I am. The first time I've ever been introduced to breath. The first journey to breathing.
When I dance, what do you see? What do you think these movements mean? Are you entertained? Do you see it? Do you see it? Because I have been saying it, but you just haven't been hearing. Maybe I've just not said it loud enough.
How do you feel? Is it meditation for you? To feel a core, a beautiful soul, a clear air River.
Kalando minate muvala kolondinda. Kalando minate muvala kolondinda.
How do I look? Are you entertained? Or can you see my story? Can you see my passion? Can you see my pain? Could you see every punch of my fist, every stomp of my foot, every pop of my chest signifies the struggle I face in the real world, all channeled through the movement of my body. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Ha, ha. True colors that make me an African, a true African, a dandy. Hey. Are you still entertained? Yum yum! Yum! Yum yum! Yum! Yum yum! Yum! Yum 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 yum! Yum yum! Yum! Yum yum! Yum! Yum 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 yum! 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 Hey! Do you see it? Can you hear it? Can you hear it? Breath. Oh, it's good. Let me breathe. Can I breathe? Can I breathe? Can I breathe? Kalando minate muvala kolondinda. 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 Think about it. Yum yum. Yeah. Yum yum. Yeah. Yum yum. Yeah. Yum yum yum. Yum yum yum.
Fabulous. That was such an amazing piece, Patrick. And I really,
Thank you.
really felt all those points that you were saying about your inspiration behind there. But throughout the whole thing, that sense of joy and that sense of celebration that comes through from your culture was just throughout as well, you know. So even with those hard-hitting messages, to have that joy there as well, you can really feel it. It's a really, really powerful piece there.
Thank you.
For viewers, I believe that piece is on YouTube, so they can watch that themselves. You know, if they want to show it to anybody, share it around. It is there on YouTube. I don't know if we can perhaps provide a link to that. So what I'd quite like to move on to is talking about your house, the House of Finesse, and the work you do around that.
Yeah. So yeah, House of Finesse. I joined House of Finesse in early 2019, last year, and then our first ball together was in March of that year. So yeah, our first it was in March of that year that we went to Liverpool, House of Soirees, did an event. And that was our first performance. So that was great. We haven't done much really because we just started, but the house is growing. The house has 4 members: myself, Pookie, we've got Layla, and then we've got Ellis as well. So yeah, it's a cute house. And the next performance we did was in Manchester. That was in October last year. Yeah, that was October. Was it? I'm lying. I think it was, when was it? It was March, just before the lockdown. Yeah. October last year was in Liverpool.
Brilliant. And so have you got any upcoming pieces of work that you...
At the moment, we haven't, no. But we are revamping our social media platform, House of Finesse, on Instagram, and we're gonna be putting on updates of what's coming next. But yeah, so it's a new house. It's only a young house. Mother of the house is Darren Pritchard. Love him. And yeah, so it's gonna be a nice house. It's gonna be a big house, I hope.
Excellent. So I watch this space. There's lots of things to come. Fabulous. So where can people follow you somewhere? I think we've got an Instagram handle that's come up just down below
my
there.
Instagram, Patrick Ziza Dance, and then my Facebook is Patrick Ziza. I also have a website which is patrickziza.com. And there you can just see what's coming next. Obviously, a little bit about dandyism, and I think all the films are there as well. So you can just visit the website, navigate through it, and you'll be entertained.
Fantastic. Yes, definitely check Patrick out on those various different platforms. So thank you very much, Patrick. That's drawing tonight's Q&A to a close. It's been really lovely hearing a little bit more about your background and what brought you to dance, and as well this fantastic piece at YEGOKO. Stay tuned for more Black History Month events for viewers out there. So next week, I believe we're going to have a few more artist takeovers, a few more Q&As. We've got journals of Dami and Jackson Soul as well planned in for next week. So a few more events like this one. Have a wonderful night, Patrick, and everybody out there in the ether. Thank you very much for tuning in.
Thank you.